The bronze bell above the door of dog-eared delights chimed with a sound as bright as the September morning sun. Aromas of toasted cinnamon and fresh ground beans drifted across rows of oak shelves, mingling with the faint vanilla scent that rose from the waxed wood. Tessa Graves, bookshop cafe proprietor and unapologetic eavesdropper, wiped her palms on her denim apron and reminded herself that tonight's launch party would be the shop's biggest event since the Valentine's Bake and Bookmark fundraiser. At 10:30, sharp Lila Hart swept in, clutching a canvas tote as though it contained state secrets. She wore a burgundy dress that matched the maple leaves pirouetting outside on Main Street, and her hazel eyes shone with anxious excitement. "Is the lectern ready?" she whispered. "Right next to the pastry case," Tessa assured her, "and the coffee urns are set to celebratory." Lila laughed, then produced her treasure, a thick spiral-bound stack of pages, professionally printed, the title Autumn Leaves and Alibis, lettered in looping script across the first sheet. It was, rumour insisted, the only complete manuscript in existence. A storm had fried Lila's laptop 3 weeks earlier. Her publisher's typesetter possessed only a partial file, a glitchy mess of missing chapters. That made this single, marked-up copy precious, irreplaceable until the proofs rolled off the press. Tessa slid the manuscript beneath a vintage glass cake dome and arranged it on a walnut pedestal. "No touching till the author's ready." Lila exhaled. "You'd think it was the crown jewels. You wrote it in the break room of Maple Falls Middle School between grading essays. I'd say it's worth more than jewels." The two women shared a smile before retreating to their respective corners. Lila to rehearse her reading, Tessa to wrangle last-minute decorations and bribe her teenage barista Dylan into polishing the brass milk steamer. By 6 o'clock, the shop buzzed with 30 guests, most of whom Tessa knew well enough to name their favourite lattes. Mayor Edna Bloom occupied a wingback near the bay window, wearing a peacock blue shawl and the self-satisfied grin of someone who had discovered Lila first in the town's Thursday book club. Grayson Reed, proprietor of Reed's Antiques and Lila's high school almost fiancé, leaned against the classics shelf, arms folded across a rust corduroy blazer. Harper Fox, podcaster, blogger, and occasional tornado of gossip, circled with a phone raised like a mic, angling for sound bites. Penelope Clark, the New York sales rep dispatched by Apricot Press, perched at a bistro table, scribbling observations on a legal pad while sipping chamomile. And Mr. Owen Barstow, Maple Falls' octogenarian curmudgeon, demolished pumpkin scones with the efficiency of a woodchipper. Marple the calico cat claimed the empty armchair near the fireplace, her white-tipped tail flicking in indifferent approval. At 6:15, Tessa struck a spoon against a mason jar lantern. "Friends, neighbours, fellow caffeine evangelists, welcome. To celebrate Lila's debut mystery, we're serving maple cream lattes on the house. Stick around after the reading, because Dylan's apple butter crullers will change your life." A smattering of applause rose as Lila stepped to the lectern. She cleared her throat and began, voice trembling at first, but smoothing into confidence. 2 pages in, the room's hum faded to hush. Even Mr. Barstow chewed more quietly. When she reached the line, the crimson leaf drifted onto the victim's collar, a whisper of Fall's complicity. The overhead lights flickered. A thunderclap rattled the windows, followed by a momentary blackout. In that instant, Marple launched herself onto the pedestal, upset the cake dome, and skittered away in feline panic. The power whooshed back. Gasps flared around the room. The pedestal stood bare. Lila's hand flew to her mouth. "It's gone!" The single priceless manuscript had vanished. Chaos erupted. Harper's phone camera swooped like a hawk. Grayson barked for calm. Dylan froze, clutching a tray of crawlers as though they might offer protection. In the midst of it, Tessa's event runner instincts seized control. "Everyone stay where you are," she said, projecting over the clamour. "Nobody leaves until we're sure the manuscript hasn't simply been misplaced." Misplaced? Lila's cheeks blanched. It was right there. Penelope already dialed someone, likely her editor in New York, hissing, "Yes, the only copy." Mayor Bloom fanned herself with a napkin. Mr. Barstow licked crumbs from a thumb. Marple disappeared behind the travel guides. Thunder boomed again, and the shop lights hiccuped but held. Tessa inhaled cinnamon-scented air and willed order into existence. "Harper, could you live-stream your panic someplace else?" she asked. "For privacy." Harper muttered but pocketed the phone. Tessa turned to Lila. "Our deputy's on call. I'll ring her." Deputy Sarah Klein arrived 15 minutes later, soaked from navigating a downed tree on Birch Road. She eyed the crowd, apologizing for the rainwater pooling on Tessa's welcome mat. "I've got public works clearing debris," Sarah said, "but until then I'm stuck. Let's treat the café as a temporary holding room." Tessa offered coffee and started mental dossiers. Suspect list scribbled on a recipe card. 1. Harper Fox, scoop hungry. 2. Grayson Reed, personal history with Lila. 3. Penelope Clark, manuscript, steered money, power leverage. 4. Mayor Bloom, book club bragging rights. 5. Dylan Campbell, accidental damage cover-up. 6. Mr. Owen, no motive except free paperweight. Clues emerged at once. Tessa noticed a light dusting of flour, the same used on the crullers, leading from the pedestal toward the non-fiction alcove. On the pedestal itself, she spotted a single cinnamon-sugared fingerprint. Meanwhile, Dylan confessed he'd refilled the pastry case during the blackout. "I might have bumped the pedestal, but I swear the dome was intact when the lights went out." Tessa believed him. She'd trust Dylan with the shop's key, and had every midweek morning. While Sarah interviewed guests near the front, Tessa toured the aisles. Behind the regional history shelf, she found a torn scrap, bottom edge of a manuscript page, frayed spiral binding grooves unmistakable. Page 287, line ending with, "Secrets buried beneath October's frost." Someone had ripped it hastily. Heart thumping, she swallowed nerves and carried the scrap to Lila. That's the climax scene. Lila's fingers trembled. Whoever has this is ruining everything. "Tell me about page 287, Tessa said gently. Lila hesitated. "It's where my killer is revealed, and well, I based the villain loosely on someone here tonight." Her eyes flicked toward Grayson, guilt and worry entwined. "Grayson," Tessa guessed. "He's a lovely human." Lila rubbed her temple. "But our breakup years ago left scars. I exaggerated traits for drama. If he reads it cold, he might think I'm cruel." Tessa tucked the information away. After Sarah collected brief statements, she received word that the downed tree still blocked the road. The storm battered the awnings, but inside dog-eared delights, curiosity replaced panic. Tessa placed a tray of miniature grilled cheese sandwiches on a sideboard. "Might as well keep blood sugar steady while we solve a literary heist." Mayor Bloom chuckled. "Best crime scene hospitality I've encountered." With guests occupied, Tessa slipped toward the storeroom. The door stood ajar. Marple emerged carrying something in her teeth, a spiral-bound corner. Tessa crouched. The cat dropped a fragment of the missing manuscript, page 301 this time, spots of blue ink smeared across one margin. Ink. Penelope's fountain pen, a cobalt Theodore carriage model, flashed to mind. She'd been writing furiously when the lights flickered. Tessa scooped Marple under one arm and rejoined the party. Interview Year 1. Penelope Clark. Penelope dabbed raindrops from her silk blouse with a cocktail napkin. Yes, I was taking notes. The blackout surprised me. I spilled ink. She displayed blue-stained fingertips. But why on earth would I steal the manuscript? My job depends on getting it to the printer intact, Tessa pressed. Did you leave your seat? I stood, maybe, to retrieve my bag. I couldn't see a thing. She sighed. Look, Lila's advance orders quadrupled after this event was announced. My bonus rides on that. Sabotage would be self-destructive. Fair point, but not exculpatory. Interview, Sus 2, Harper Fox. Harper admitted craving an exclusive excerpt for her blog. But swipe the whole script. That's amateur hour. A photo of the reveal chapter would have lit my analytics like a Christmas tree. Carrying off 400 pages under my jacket, please. And look, she turned out her pockets. All I nabbed was a cinnamon stick for my chai. Interview, Sir 3, Mayor Bloom. The mayor humphed. If I wanted the manuscript, I'd ask politely. I'm a public servant, not a thief. She tapped her peacock shawl. Besides, nowhere to hide bulky documents in this get-up. Interview number 4, Mr. Barstow. He belched pastry fragrance. Looks like paper, tastes like paper, no value. That too seemed reasonable. Interview number 5, Dylan. During the outage, I ducked to the kitchen to grab the mag light, he said. Didn't find it till the lights came back, I swear. Tessa trusted him. Still, she noted flour on his sneakers, but Dylan always carried the shop's flour bin like a linebacker. Not deviant. Interview, Sir 6, Grayson. He paced by the fireplace, every movement agitated. Lila's book is her dream, he said. I wouldn't hurt it. But you left your post, Tessa observed. I went to check the circuit breaker down the hall, force of habit from my store's outages. Didn't even reach it before lights returned. Circuit breaker, located next to Tessa's staff closet. Staff closet that contained tea cozies, old aprons, cleaning supplies. Tessa's pulse quickened. She slipped to the hallway and opened the closet. On the top shelf beneath a polka-dot tea cozy bulged a mass of paper. She dragged it down, autumn leaves and alibis, spiral intact, but pages 287 and 301 missing. So the thief had stashed it nearby, maybe intending to retrieve it later. Why hide in Tessa's own closet unless you knew the space? Dylan knew. Grayson knew from dating Tessa's cousin, who once managed the café. Harper had barged back here during interviews months ago. Penelope scouted the building earlier for Wi-Fi. Many people knew, but the missing pages, one in non-fiction aisle, one dragged by Marple, suggested hurried tearing while moving. Perhaps the thief ripped incriminating sections. Page 287 revealed villain, modelled on Grayson. Page 301, Lila's dedication, maybe. Tessa flipped. Page 301 contained an author's note thanking Maple Falls Middle School faculty, with an asterisk referencing G, who taught me antique secrets. That aligned with Grayson again. Was he embarrassed? Concerned about portrayal? She faced the main room, manuscript hugged like a baby. Found it! Relief rippled. Lila nearly collapsed against Penelope. Deputy Sarah raised an eyebrow. Where was it? Tessa set the stack on a table. Top shelf of my supply closet, under a tea cozy. I'd like everyone's cooperation as I determine how it got there, Sarah said. Before she finished, Grayson strode forward, shoulders stiff. No need for interrogation. I moved it. Murmurs erupted. He took a breath. When the lights died, I panicked. Lila and I split years ago, but we've recently reconnected. I knew I inspired her antagonist. We joked about it over coffee, but I worried townsfolk would read and decide I was, well, homicidal. Colour rushed to his ears. I intended to skim the later chapters privately, see how bad it was. When Marple jumped, instinct kicked. I grabbed the manuscript to protect it from claws, and yes, to preview page 287. I ducked into the hallway, tore the villain reveal, and... Tore, Lila repeated, stricken. Grayson winced. I'm sorry. I realized instantly what a jerk move it was. I meant to tape it back, but footsteps came. I panicked again, shoved the stack in the closet. Then the lights returned, and... Sarah crossed arms. Why not confess earlier? Shame, he admitted, and guilt. I planned to return it before anyone noticed, but Tessa took charge too quickly. Penelope snapped. Do you grasp that we lose thousands of dollars if those pages aren't restored? Grayson produced the torn page from his blazer pocket, creased but salvageable. Page 287. I never saw 301. Must have torn by accident. I'll pay whatever reparations you need. Tessa looked to Marple, now grooming on a shelf. The cat must have carried 301 off the hallway floor. Tessa retrieved the feline-chewed scrap and offered it to Penelope, who groaned but accepted. We can scan, retype, proof. It'll delay printing a day at most. Lila's shoulders sagged in relief. She approached Grayson, voice quavering. You thought I'd humiliate you? He studied his shoes. Guess I'm more thin-skinned than I pretend. Lila threaded her arm through his. The character redeems himself by the end. You'd know if you'd turned the page after 287. A shy half-smile curved his mouth. Maybe you'll read it to me, someplace cat-free. Mayor Bloom clapped. All's well that mends well. Sarah took statements, decided the incident warranted a warning rather than arrest. No malicious intent, she concluded. Tessa suspected kindness factored, but she endorsed it. By 8:45 the storm eased. Guests trickled out, armed with leftover crullers. Harper promised an article titled Manuscript Mania at Maple Falls, approved by Lila in advance. Penelope phoned New York with updated good news. Deputy Sarah departed to direct traffic, her work boots squelching. Mr. Barstow tucked scone crumbs into his breast pocket for sparrows. Tessa locked the door, flipped the sign to closed, and rested forehead against cool glass. Event of the year indeed. Behind her, Lila sighed. I owe you a lifetime of free coffee. Just autograph my wall when your book hits bestseller lists, Tessa said, pointing at the patch of exposed brick where visiting authors scrawled signatures. Grayson lingered, mending tape in hand. He appeared sheepish but lighter. I'll drop by tomorrow with a fresh cake dome, he said. My elbow cracked yours. Appreciated, Tessa smiled. I recommend bubble wrap delivery. When they left arm in arm, Tessa exhaled steam into the quiet space. She gathered stray napkins, righted toppled decor, and stroked Marple's head. You, madam, are an accessory after the fact, she told the cat. Marple purred unapologetically. Tessa's eyes fell on the pedestal. The glass dome lay in two pieces, shimmer of fractured reflections. She fetched a broom, thinking of how fragile objects and egos could shatter in an instant, and how a community could glue everything back together with conversation, forgiveness, and perhaps a grilled cheese sandwich. As she swept, raindrops drummed a steady rhythm on the tin roof, comforting as a favourite chapter reread by lamplight. The crisis had passed, mystery solved, friendships tested and patched. Tomorrow, fresh customers would step inside seeking espresso and escapism, and dog-eared delights would be ready, with stories stacked spine to spine, proof that even paper hearts survive thunderstorms. Tessa flipped off the last light. The bell over the door chimed a hushed goodnight in the breeze, and Maple Falls settled into post-storm slumber. Somewhere beyond, the press would whir, birthing new copies of Autumn Leaves and Alibis, each page intact, each character redeemed, each mystery reminding its readers, like Tessa had tonight, that the best endings leave room for second chances and one more sip of warm cinnamon comfort.